Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage. Today we're going to be working on the Sweetheart Roadster project again. We've been doing a bunch of work on this thing this winter. I kind of made it a priority for myself this winter to knock out pretty much all of the major metal work or major fabrication on this car. And I've been dialing in a lot of the not fun stuff, doing gapping and stuff like that. Did a pretty fun project in the last video where I did the Frenched in license plate mount. I really finished up the back end. I still need to go back and do some gapping back there, but I'll be doing that off camera. No big deal. It's not worth its own video. So the next big project for me, as far as things I want to check off the list of styling cues that I wanted to do since the beginning, was some neat tubular bumpers. Some guys call them Nerf bar bumpers. I'll let you argue in the comments about the correct verbiage, but the tubular style bumpers, they started with the early dirt racers, the track tees and stuff like that, had the kind of American football looking grill, helmet grill type look to it. But over the years, as things transitioned, the show cars, they started getting really wild with them in the 50s and 60s, where they were very formed and made around the headlights and the taillights and shaped and license plate mounts. And pretty much that was one of the places where you could get very creative. It was, you know, headers, and it was the Nerf bar bumpers that you would see that guys would get really creative, because you could take some solid bar stock, heat it and bend it, or even tubing if you were good enough. A lot of guys made them out of conduit, but a lot of the ones I've come into having on, that I've seen off of real cars, a lot of them were actually made out of solid bar stock, because you could just get your oxyacetylene torch, heat it, bend it, and there was a lot of room for grinding and filing and smoothing of them when you would, of course, chrome them. So we're going to be working on making some cool bumpers for this car. In the front, I wanted to make something that had some style to it and a little bit of shape. In the rear, I think I'm going to stay pretty simple to keep the back end. It's already got a lot going on with the tail lights and the license plate mount. We don't want to cover all that up. So first thing I need to do on the car, though, is I want to section the front horns. I had put some reproduction horns on this when I first did this frame way back when, and they stick out quite a bit, and obviously I want to shorten them a little bit to so we don't have a bumper that's sticking a mile in front. So we're going to shorten that up first of all, and then we're going to go and make the bumpers and figure out what we're going to do after that. So let's get started. All right, so got the rails shortened up, ended up taking a lot out of those front horns. They were reproduction horns, and I think they were kind of excessively long. I don't know, maybe it was just the look of the car, but shortened up the horns quite a bit. Now we have just a little bit sticking out of the side. I just did a first root pass on them. I'm gonna need to do another pass of welding just to blend it all together and get the surface to be nice and smooth and make my weld disappear, but for now, they're nice and strong. Don't have to worry about it. So what I ended up doing is just retaining this front area that has where the spreader bar would mount, because I'm gonna use that for our bumper mounts again, because it's already reinforced from the, originally from the factory, and these reproduction ones are as well. So they got that extra doubler plate in the back, stiffener plate. So now we got that, I'm going to start patterning up my bumper. I got this bar stock here. We got it that metal yard we always talk about in my area. That's had a bunch of this round bar stock just sitting there. Bought it for real cheap, so should have plenty to even mess up once or twice, but hopefully we don't. So what I'm going to first do is try and get a design going in my head. There was the Cockroach is a pretty well-known car survivor hot rod that was found by a guy and put back on the road, much like we do, and then eventually now it's ended up in the $3 collection, which is local to me. And I was taking a look at that car and I actually really liked the Nerf bar bumper on the front of that. Very similarly styled car, just has a nail head in it. But it has these two little like oval bumpers that are like right here and then right here over the frame rail, and then they have like a license plate mount that kind of goes in right in front of the grill. So my thought was to do similar, use it for inspiration, similar thing, the two little like ovals, and then do one that actually has a peak out, because we have this cool horizontal grill that has the peak still down the center. So by doing that, we kind of mimic the grill. So that's my thought. I'm gonna start looking for some stuff to use for bending dies on the table. And yeah, so we'll get set up and get the torch out and start bending. All right, so working on mocking up some different options for what I want the shape of the bumper to be. So since we're using some heavier bar stock, I don't want to just be figuring it out with that stuff, because we have to heat and bend it. Now I have so much of it, and it's hard to unbend it. So I have some like 1/4-inch bar stock here that we use for all kinds of stuff like this, fabbing things up and making patterns and all stuff. So I'm starting out, but I was trying to figure out different diameters of what we want these bends to be. So I started with like a brake drum and different pieces of tubing. I kind of came onto this post dolly I have for my anvil that is just a piece of tubing welded to it, thick wall tubing. So this is like I think about the perfect ID of the bend for what we want. So I started out by making one that was pretty small, that is about the overall size of what the the headlights are. Kind of takes up the same amount of space as those two little headlights, just for symmetry, if you will. But it looked too small for this car. I mean, maybe on a T or something like that, it might look a little better, but with everything going on, it was a little too small and kind of got lost. So again, I went back to that car, the Cockroach, which is a car I really like. I like the bumpers, and I'm definitely ripping off those bumpers a little bit here. So I noticed that those ones were quite a bit bigger, and they actually had them pushed out a little bit, which I kind of like, because we're going to be putting some kind of bar in between, much like they did. They put theirs at the top, and it went like in towards the grill. I'm going to probably go center and out. So I made this one, which is a bit longer. I think it looks really good. So I'm going to make a second one. Essentially, I'm going to make the bumper out of these pieces, because they're a lot easier to work with. Tack them up, kind of just like mock them up to the car and stand back and see if we like them, because again, I don't want to go through the hassle of bending that heavy actual bumper material and then not like it. So, but this one's looking pretty good, so I'm going to replicate it with another piece of round bar stock here, and then we'll make our centerpiece and stand back and see if we like it. just that little bit.
I think it's enough. Yeah.
Just gotta get it, you know, at the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not to measure or eyeball what.
Right.
Fine.
Hang on.
It's a little warm.
Gotcha.
Right? That's not far from the peak of the room.
No, it looks very similar. It looks about the same.
Yeah, it's cool because from the front you don't fully see it because it's so subtle.
Yep.
And then when you get up on it, you'll see there'll be a little.
Mm-hmm. Yeehaw! It stayed. Now we got to do the eyeball test.
I want to put one more tack.
Okay.
Because. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Stand back, make sure it looks good, and sit on the weld.
Yeah.
Well, you're also tilting. It has to be like this. Alright, so I did a little bit of sanding and blending after kind of fully welding everything and just got it roughed in. I'm planning to chrome this bumper. For anybody that doesn't know or is joining us late in the channel, this car is going to be kind of like the Free T, but probably even a little nicer. The goal is to, you know, have a lot of chrome, pleated, you know, very much a mid to late 50s, early 60s style show car. So I'm going to have a lot of time in blending out the welds and getting in there with files and sandpaper and all that. But I just went over it, knocked a lot of the the coating that comes on the hot rolled steel. There is like a pickled and oiled coating that's kind of difficult to get off. And because I'm going to be chroming it, I didn't want to go over the whole thing with a flap disc and put a ton of scratches in it. There's already a lot of scratches where I was just trying to blend out some of the welds. So I knocked it down with a DA sander just to get the overall look kind of there. But I have hours and hours of fine tuning the shape and everything. Some of these brackets I'm gonna probably give a little more swoopiness to. Just gotta fine tune it as we go. But the shape is there, it's bolted on, it's very sturdy. Really happy with it. I think it is it complements the front end. We did check off camera, I think somewhere during mocking it up, but we didn't get it recorded. We were checking the turning radius with the bumper on. I know that's something that we'd probably get comments that people would ask about. Basically, with how it is now, the turning radius is only a few degrees less than what it would be with absolutely no obstructions at all. But checking some of my other cars, it's basically going to be the same as what it would be on most other cars with split wishbones and the steering out the side with a drop axle. A lot of times you hit your drag link or you hit your wishbones when you split them, and that's really what the limiting factor is versus the actual full lock-to-lock on a stock vehicle. So there's going to be plenty of turning radius. Just like a lot of hot rods and modified vehicles, you have to learn how to drive them. You can't drive it exactly like you could your minivan that you take to the grocery store, but it's going to look cool. It is going to function. We're going to be able to do turns and drive it on the street, so it is fine. In case anybody was wondering, we have to put that out there for everybody in the comments that's going to give us their expert opinions. So now that this is done, I decided to just do the front bumper because it is an incredible amount of work to make these very simple looking bumpers, between making fixtures and heating and bending and shaping and welding. I had probably a couple days of work into this front bumper, and it's still got days of work to go. We're going to do a separate video on the rear bumper. I actually, like I say a lot with this car and a lot of the cars, I need to stand back and kind of decide what is right rather than jumping right in and making a bumper. So I'm going to let it simmer for a few days or a week and kind of stare at the car and see what it's telling me the rear bumper is going to look like. And then we'll jump in and do a rear bumper. It'll be very much like the process for the front one, just heating and bending and welding and doing it all together. But hopefully this video gave you a little insight into basically how these old Nerf bar style bumpers were made. Back in the old days, I think it would have been very similar. Just use a torch, heat and bend it around whatever shape you have, and weld it and blend it. The only difference is I'm using a TIG welder instead of using a gas torch, but the process would be very much the same. So thank you guys for following along. Appreciate it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below of the bumper, good and bad. Let's hear it. Thanks guys. Catch you later.